Today I review Nova number 1, Extraordinary X-Men number 1, and Vision number 1. Hello and welcome to the show with reviews. I am Auram, and it's time for another round of all new, all different number 1 issues. We've got kind of the B-list of heroes this time around with Nova, the X-Men, and even Vision of all people, so let's get started. First up is Nova number 1, written by Sean Ryan with art by Corey Smith. I'm not entirely sure how to feel about this book so far. For those that don't know, the mantle of Nova has been taken up by a boy by the name of Sam Alexander for the past few years, and he stars in this book along with his dad, who's apparently back, who's also, he used to be a Nova too, and they're kind of like a dynamic duo type thing. Problem I have so far is that everything just seems cliche and unoriginal. It's basically Space Peter Parker with a really stupid and overused stinger at the end. Seriously, I cannot tell you how many times I've read, and he has no idea at the end of a comic book. One thing I will say about this book is that the space stuff is actually super interesting. There's one part in the issue where Sam was flying around the neighborhood, which is basically just a few alien hotspots for criminal activity in space, which I found really cool. The sad thing is, that doesn't look like the direction they're going with this story. From the stinger, I can pretty much tell that this is going to be a very grounded story with occasional romps throughout the galaxy. I honestly can't say that I recommend this title. I'd just save your cash and buy something better, like the first trade of Sam's original run, for example. Next up is Extraordinary X-Men number 1, written by Jeff Lemire with art by Humberto Ramos. This is another book that I just don't know how to feel about. I like the X-Men, I do, but sometimes they just come off as boring and one-dimensional. I mean, really, how many times has the mutants are bad and people don't like them story been told? So far, this book seems to be telling that story with one change. The Terrigen Mist is killing their species, which I definitely find cool, but I honestly can't stray from the idea that the only reason this specific book exists is to shut people up about Marvel killing off the X-Men or whatever. We've got enough with mutants dealing with the Terrigen Mist amongst other books, so why does it warrant its own? This issue certainly doesn't give any other explanation for it. The Terrigen is literally the only conflict that exists here. It gave me a very, look how cool the formation of this new X-Men team is, you should be on board 100%, which I am not okay with at all. I guess I just think that this book should have been a little longer to present an actual conflict specific to this title, or just shorten the exposition and introduction of the team to allow for the introduction of a conflict other than the Terrigen. Finally is Vision number 1, written by Tom King with art by Gabriel Hernandez Walta. Holy shit on a stick covered in mustard on a Tuesday. This book was outstanding. This book is so different and surreal and masterfully written and beautifully drawn and more praise. I seriously had so much fun with this thing. It's kind of written like most traditional books, with a narrator who's just that, a narrator who's progressing the story, with the characters occasionally chiming in with dialogue. I really don't know what else to say about this book other than that it's just so interestingly done. The premise is that the Vision decided to erase his emotions because they were slowing his systems down. This led to him starting a family and moving to Virginia to be the liaison between the Avengers and the US government. Now that's cool and all, but the real intrigue here comes from the interaction between the Visions, who are all synthezoids, and their neighbors, who are all human. The end of this book actually gave me chills, which is not something that a comic book normally does. This is a huge addition to the all-new, all-different lineup, and I highly recommend you check it out for yourself. But of course, that's it for this week. I kinda thought that this round was gonna be a dud at the start of me reading, but it actually turned out to be pretty awesome. Most of the other titles I read this week were actually pretty great, I just didn't review them. Anyway, before you head out, make sure to tell me what you thought about your pulls in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. That all being said, thank you so much for watching. Next time, I hail Hydra just to make sure that the person I'm talking to isn't actually Hydra. But what if I'm purposely hailing Hydra, and when they don't hail Hydra, I'm just saying that I'm not Hydra to hold my cover together? The point is, hail Hydra.